Good afternoon, class. Let's straight away go to page number 21 and start with the next topic, that is mulching. Okay. It's very simple. Mulching basically means, covering the soil or putting a kind of a protective layer of the soil, like mobile phones. In our mobile phones, we use tempered glass, we use this back case and all, right? Why? A protection. A kind of a safety, so that even it falls on or protect it from a kind of a scratches and all, likewise. So mulching is same. It's just like a kind of you can say the protective layer which is basically spread on top of the soil. That's called mulching. All right, so that's one of the ways how you can protect the soil, how you can save the soil, or you can control soil degradation. Page number 21. So explanation is done. Let me start now. Mulching. It is a simple and beneficial practice to stabilize soil temperature, retain soil moisture, and reduce soil erosion. Basically, mulching is a protective layer spread on top of the soil. The material used to create this layer can be both organic or inorganic. Next, we have the contour farming. What do you mean by contour farming? Under contour farming, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of contour farming. Let's see. Contour barriers, they help in reducing soil erosion and hence store more water in the soil for agricultural benefit. Barriers can be made of stone, crops, crop stalk, and leaves or earth mounds. Alright. You see, there is a figure 2.7, which basically tells us about contour farming. It's kind of, supposedly you have a field, you have a kind of a whatever crop you're growing, creating kind of a boundary. It can be in the form of you with that boundary. It's not that it must be made up of walls or bricks and all. That boundary, it can be made up of stones, it can be made up of crops. Because what happens now, supposing say you have got an area of field, and on all the four sides, if you plant different crops or if you plant trees, say for example trees, okay, then what happens, supposedly even if the wind blows at a high speed or say there is flood, even if there is flood, the thing is that water will not be able to take away the soil of that particular farm, as because the boundaries, okay, they act as a kind of they give you a safeguard, okay, they protect you, they protect your land, they protect your soil from being getting eroded. Figure 2.7 will help you to understand in a better way, so that verbal as well as you can say pictorial gives you a better understanding. Contour plowing, it's same as contour farming that I told you. It is a farming practice of plowing across a slope, especially in a slope area, along its contours. This helps in slowing down of running water during the rainstorm, allowing water to percolate into the soil. So basically this boundary allows water to remain there in the soil instead of getting it flowing down or washing away the soil. Intercropping. It is a method of growing two or more crops on the same land in the same growing season. Generally, one is a fast growing crop while the other takes longer to mature. So different types of crop grown in the same season in the same field, as because in layman's term, like you might think that what benefit we will get, how can this growing different types of crop protect the soil. Now see, there are some crops which needs a good amount of nutrient from the soil, whereas there are some crops who does not need that much amount of nutrient. So as a result, what happens, if one takes excessive nutrient, other may not take them, other may, you can say, recreate those nutrients which the soil needs. Terrace farming. Terrace is basically in simple language, if I say staircase, the staircase that we have, okay, when you climb up a building and all, that small staircase, but imagine that stair being built in a wide area, in a large area. Supposing a slope area is there, a mountain or a hill, now that is being cut down in the form of steps, but not small, big one, so that at least you can do a farm. It becomes the size of a farm. This method of farming involves growing crops on the sides of hills and mountains on broad step-like formation. It also helps prevent or reduce the runoff rainwater and carrying of soil with it. The one that I told you, creating steps, especially in the mountains, broad steps. Figure 2.8. Crop rotation. Crop rotation is quite similar to intercropping. When we grow, the name itself is self-explanatory. When we grow two or more crops one after the other in a regular sequence on the same land, this method of farming is called crop rotation. Underline that. This controls insects and diseases, and also the main important thing, conserve the nutrients of the soil. Drip irrigation. It is the slow release of water to each plant to conserve water and prevent soil runoff with too much of water. Different methods of protecting soil. Drip irrigation, releasing of water in a small amount so that water prevention of flowing away or overflooding of this soils can be protected. Shelter belts. Shelter belts is quite similar to contour plowing, but a little different. It's similar, it's not same. This act as a barrier against fast blowing wind. It is usually made up of one or more rows of trees or shrubs planted to provide shelter from wind and present soil erosion. Shelter belt. Let me show you. Say for example, this is a piece of land, alright? You are doing farming out here. Now this is the boundary. If you plant trees, shelter, providing a shelter and belt, straight at a stretch, at a row, belt. So what will happen? Be it like as I explained to you in terms of contour plowing, be it wind, be it heavy rain, flood, it cannot directly go and hit to your field. First of all, they will have to face these trees. So they are providing a kind of blockade against this fast blowing wind, or you can say against this flood, and which in turn protects the soil erosion. What we can do? Let's see what we can do. To control soil erosion caused by the human activities, the following steps can be taken. To stop excessive use of fertilizers, pesticide and machinery for farming. What we can do, but do we do? That's a question. To stop excessive use of fertilizers, pesticide and machinery for farming. To step up the process of afforestation or planting trees. To prevent soil pollution through seepage of chemical and other industrial waste. To prevent excessive accumulation of soil by suitable irrigation methods and planting salt-resistant plants like tall wheatgrass, sunflower, spinach. What is that? Alfalfa. I don't know which plant is that. Alfalfa, etc. To control soil acidification through the correct use of fertilizer and appropriate choice of crops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the 5 points are important. I'll explain you. We'll go one by one. I just read. Number 1, how to protect soil erosion, or what human being can do in order to save the soil. Stop using fertilizers, pesticide, machineries for farming. You know why this pesticide, fertilizers are being used for farming? For more productivity, for excessive production. As because you will understand in your higher classes, demand and supply. When there is more demand, you need to supply accordingly. If you do not supply accordingly, what happens? The demand goes up, and there's a kind of a big inflation, rise in price and all. But again, everything, it's all connected with human being. Like increase in population leads to rise in demand. So basically, as a result, they go for this, you can say shortcut methods of using fertilizers and pesticides and machineries for farming. Machineries also in turn affect the soil. It damages the soil. So stop. They are not saying that. See, there is a word. The line does not say stop using fertilizer. This line says stop excessive use of fertilizer. There's a word called excessive. So yes, as per the demand, as per the requirement, we will have to use, but not, there's a limit, so do not go beyond that. Number 2, like the way we have increased the pace of cutting down of trees, the so-called development, We are running behind development, but without keep giving a thought about the future generation. It's fine, development is a need of the hour, infrastructure and all, but since we have to cut down trees in one place for building up anything, say ABCD, likewise, if that place is used for construction, for development, for well-being of the people in terms of urbanization and all, in the other way, in the other place, you can also plant trees. That can be done. That can be. But do we? If not, start doing it. To prevent soil pollution through seepage of chemical and other industrial waste. Yes, that's another point. The industries, the factories, the wastage which comes out of those industries, factories, those are generally being dumped. If you see this dumping ground, I don't know whether you are going through the news channels or not. Please do watch news channel instead of watching other things. I don't know what in news channel will provide you a great piece of information about the happenings going on in and around your society. It will also keep you updated. Now what happens, this open areas of dumping, be it in this land where you dump or be it in the water where you dump the wastages. Now this wastages has got certain, the name itself wastage, right? So therefore, which is harmful for the people, not only for the people, for the all types of living organism, even for animals as well. So before dumping them in an open area, before dumping them in the water bodies, give them a proper chemical treatment so that all those harmful materials which are present in those wastage, those are being removed, and then even if you dump those wastage, it does not harm anyone. Okay, that's called through seepage of chemical and other industrial waste. To prevent excessive accumulation of soil by the suitable irrigation methods and planting soil resistant plants like tall wheatgrass, sunflower, spinach, alfalfa, etc. Now, salt present in the soil, it can be due to excessive rainwater, because rainwater also at times acidic and all. You might have read in your science, you'll come to know. So in order to if soil is getting damaged in that way, then what we can do is that give proper suitable irrigation. Use different methods of irrigation. Too much of water is also bad, less water is also bad. Next, plant those type of crops, those type of plants which has got the characteristic, you can say the quality of salt resistant. Some of the plants they have mentioned in the book, use those things. Next we have the same thing, soil acidification. This is quite similar to point number 1, like fertilizer and all. When we use too much of fertilizer, pesticide, insecticide, yes, we are using, in turn I'll tell you this, fertilizer, pesticide, insecticide, it does not only harm the soil but also human health as well. I suddenly remembered something. I'll tell you a small piece of note. Nowadays diseases like so-called cancer and all, and various diseases, it is becoming a common disease nowadays. In fact, every alternate house you'll find somebody or the other suffering from such type of diseases. Now the question is, there are also, yes, people say tobacco consumption, these, that, which is very bad, which is not good for health. But there are also some people in our society, in their entire life and all, they have never taken any sort of tobacco or any sort of unwanted things in their whole life, but still they get such type of diseases called cancer and all. And people might be wondering, or they themselves might be wondering, like, why, how come it happened to me? The reason is, yes, you haven't taken any sort of unwanted things, but you have eaten food. You have to survive. You have consumed vegetables, the so-called those fresh vegetables which we assume to be fresh and buy it from the market. During this crop production, what type of fertilizers, up to what amount, pesticide to keep the pest away, insecticide and all those are chemicals. All those were used for crop production, and which in turn went into those particular food crops, it goes into our stomach, and after a certain duration, after some time, after some years, we have this disease and that disease, and we have big question marks hanging around. What happens? Why? How come I got the disease? You have eaten food, you have eaten vegetables, right? It's not that you eat brick, cement, stone and all. So this is how we get disease. So it is not only important to that this we must stop using fertilizer, insecticide, pesticide, so that it harms the soil, not only the soil, even human body as well. Next we have water resources. Water is basic to life and one of the most important renewable natural resources. It is colorless, odorless and tasteless. It is the only resource that is available in 3 different forms, that is liquid, ocean, river and lakes, gaseous, water vapor in the atmosphere, solid, ice in the mountains and polar region. Water covers 71% of Earth's surface. Underline that. We know that 3/4 of the Earth's surface is covered by water, but here in person 71%. The Earth is rightly called the water planet or blue planet. Oceans cover 2/3 of the total, but all of it is not fit for human consumption. Underline that. Oceans cover 2/3 of the total, but all of it is not fit for human consumption. It's like a scenario. For example, if I give you a plate of biryani is in front of you, you're feeling hungry, but your hands are tight and your mouth is taped, and you're being offered, please eat. Same scenario. I hope you understood. 71% of Earth's surface is underwater, and oceans have 2/3 out of that, but that is not fit for human consumption. That means we need fresh water. You're in the middle of an ocean, but you're dying out of thirst. That's what I mean to say. Much of the fresh water that serves as a resource for human is provided by precipitation. Some of this water soaks into the ground and is stored in soils and pores of rocks. A small part of fresh water exists in the river and streams. Note down, a small part of fresh water. A small part of fresh water exists in the rivers and streams. All forms of organisms require water to live, and so do humans. We need water for drinking, bathing, cleaning, cooking and other household use, irrigation and industrial processes. Besides, rivers and streams provide means of transportation and recreation. Water is so important that ancient civilizations settled and built towns and cities near water resources. Very important point. There is a good example for this. So, water. How important is water? Class 8 students, I hope you all know, I don't have to explain. Right from the beginning of the day, when our day starts, until the end of the day, until the time we go to the bed, we just count the number of activities where water is involved. Knowingly or unknowingly, each and every activity, in everything you need water. Be it for cooking food, be it for for your own consumption, be it for cleaning purposes or whatever. And that too, fresh water. Okay, there's not ocean, sea and all. Those consist alkaline in that, salty. Those are not suitable for a human being. Those are not suitable for our purposes, for what it is required. So as a result, we need fresh water. And another good example that the book, it's not only for us, it's not only for human being, let me not use the word human being, it's all forms of organisms, be it plants, be it animals, they need water to live. Each one of us, we need water to live. And if you look at the ancient, a good example, it's basically an example. If you look at the ancient civilizations, you might have read in your lower classes, I don't know, or you might have heard about it, the Harappan civilization, which is also, you can say that Indus Valley civilization, oldest civilizations of the world. These settlements, when people started settling, Indus, Indus is basically the name of a river. Okay. Now, social, right? I forgot. Yeah, social. So Indus is basically the name of a river. So people also prefer settling, nearby river, nearby water bodies. So now just imagine during those days, thousands and thousands of years ago, I'm talking about the ancient civilizations, Harappa and all. During those days also, people had that understanding that how important is water. Nowadays we have our machines, my water tank, my water tap, my wish. Let me put on the water tap on, let the water run. It's my wish, my house, right? Who are you to say? My dear children, if we have that mentality, I know you don't have, you all are good children, right? But if anybody has, or if you find anyone with such type of mentality, okay, I hope you're able to hear me. This was inside, I don't know. I just saw now. If any one of you have, or any one of you find such type, explain them, make them understand that the groundwater is same for all. If one keeps on wasting, it is not that only he or she is going to suffer, or he or she may have different means of accessing water, but whereas everybody does not have the same means, and for one, other will have to suffer, the society will have to suffer, right? Next, fresh water distribution. You know that 97.5% of water on the surface of the earth is salt water. Underline. Very important. Circle that. Not underline, circle it. So that it strikes in your eye when you read the text. 97.5% of the water that we have is salt water, and which is not fit for human use. Most of the little fresh... What has happened to me? Most of the little fresh water we have is frozen as ice sheets and mountain glaciers. Lakes, ponds, rivers and streams are the sources of fresh water. Underline. Lakes, ponds, rivers and streams are the sources of fresh water. Wetlands we'll just try to finish up this topic today. Right? What is happening to me? Lakes, ponds, rivers and streams are sources of fresh water. Wetlands such as swamps and marshes also have fresh water. Underline some of the sources of fresh water. This water is salt-free and accounts for less than 0.5% of the world's water supply. Very important. Sorry. This water is salt-free and accounts for less than 0.5% of the world's water supply. Water is not evenly distributed, and neither can it be added or subtracted, but it remains in constant motion, which you have already read about in water cycle. The water from oceans evaporates into the air, then falls as rain on land. Maybe you have studied in your lower classes, as mentioned, the process of rain and water cycle. The amount of rainfall received in different parts of the world varies considerably. Some places receive heavy rainfall while others hardly get any. In our country itself we have, right? You compare the western parts of our country with the eastern, and in the eastern, if you compare this, especially even northeastern areas, we have a good amount of rainfall. And that is the reason why water supplies also vary across the world. The reason why water supplies varies across the world is because of the amount of rainfall which varies from one another. So when there is a variation in the amount of rainfall, obviously there will be variation in the amount of water supply as well. So here we have this how much percentage of water is salt water. Next we have the sources of fresh water, and also one most important thing, that this sources of fresh water, it accounts less than 0.5% of the world's water supply. And And thirdly, that why water is not evenly or not equally distributed everywhere. Hopefully we'll finish up this chapter by tomorrow. Tomorrow means the next class. So let me mark it this much. That's fresh water distribution. Now let's go to the exercise. What is this one? Which are the topics, because I will give you questions only that we have covered in today's class, okay, and not what is not yet discussed yet. So fill in the blanks. Question number 9, mark it. Tick the correct answer. Number 3. True or false? Number 1. Answer the following in brief. Mulching. Question number 1. Mulching. Answer the following question in brief. Question number 7, 8, 9, all related to water. And answer the following question in detail. Scarcity of water. Did we cover up scarcity of water? Yes. No. That will be done tomorrow. So, very less you have for the day. I repeat. Fill in the blanks. Number 9, that's only 1 fill in the blanks. Tick the correct answer. Number 3, only one tick the correct answer. True or false? Only 1. Answer the following question in brief. That's only 1. That's mulching. And brief answer 7, 8, 9. And answer the following question in detail. None. Alright, so this much for the day. We'll wind up. See you in the next class. Do study well, okay? Exams knocking at your door. Half yearly. Don't forget.